Okay, so the next one is space. Space is the area between and around objects, and it could also refer to as positive, negative space. So here's a little example right here that I already made, and this has contrast, okay, which we'll talk about in a minute too, but this is kind of our positive and negative space, but let's draw a little example so I can show you guys what I mean. So I'm going to use my mechanical pencil, and I'm just going to draw like a little piece of paper, okay, like landscape piece of paper. Just like that. Okay, so do that on your paper. Okay, now let's just draw a simple shape in there, okay, like we'll do a triangle since I did circles already. Okay, maybe I'll do a couple triangles. Okay, so here are my triangles, right? So space is talking about the area between and around objects. So if these triangles are the objects in my picture plane, okay, so this is my picture, then the space would either be inside these objects, okay, that could be one part of space, but then also the space around them, okay, and I can emphasize that space by either maybe I want to make all of these triangles blue, okay, so I could color each of these in. This would be considered the positive space because it's the object that I'm coloring, and the background is the negative space. Okay, so this is putting emphasis on positive space. Okay, this one, same idea, okay, right? I just drew a bunch of shapes in there, but notice how I colored in the background instead of the objects, okay? The objects are still emphasized, but instead, this would be considered negative space. Okay, makes sense? So you can have either or. Just because this is blue, like I could color this blue as well. I just figured I'd use that example. Okay, so that's space. So texture is the way things feel or look as if they might feel when touched. Okay, so I started to create some different textures on here, but what I like to do is think about the different types of lines that you can make and then create a texture from that. So you can see here I started using different types of lines, and it almost creates a grass texture or hair or fur. Okay, if I wanted to create a texture that's more like squiggly, I could use lines like this. Creates this idea of fluff. Okay, that would be a texture. I could create a texture with hatching. Okay, so I could use lines like this and then cross over them. Gives me like almost like a burlap type of texture. Okay, sometimes your texture might be really rough. Maybe it's just scribble lines, like up and down, really jagged lines. That creates a texture. Okay, texture could be more methodical. Maybe it has like continuing lines, like scales. This one looks almost like scales or something, like on a fish. Okay, so texture can be created with all different types of lines, and we'll have a whole project going around, a whole project going on with the idea of texture.